All right, so question 12 was all about conservation of momentum and conservation of kinetic energy, not energy in general, in elastic versus inelastic collisions. So elastic collisions you can think of as the bouncy collisions. So if you have a billiard ball bouncing off a billiard ball, usually they bounce off with the same velocity that they had before. Momentum is always going to be conserved in a closed system. So therefore, momentum is conserved in all three of these situations, whereas kinetic energy is conserved in an elastic collision, but not in an inelastic collision. So we have conserved, and then in an inelastic collision, momentum is conserved again, but kinetic energy is not conserved. And in inelastic collisions, that's the defining feature, is that kinetic energy is not conserved. Um, there's no distinction between a completely inelastic collision and an inelastic collision in terms of the amount of kinetic energy that is lost. Technically, a completely inelastic collision has the maximum amount of kinetic energy lost to other forms, so sound or heat, but it doesn't necessarily have to be zero. So if your objects stick together, they can keep moving. They don't have to just stop as soon as they collide in a completely inelastic collision. Then for question 13, the distinction between a partially inelastic collision and a completely inelastic collision, the only distinction is that in a completely inelastic collision, the objects stick together. In a partially inelastic collision, the objects hit, but they don't stick together. Um, not all energy is lost in either situation. You can lose all energy, but generally that's not a defining feature of either of these types of collisions. You can still have energy.